Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. We're going to be giving a briefing on the October 18th, 2024 officer-involved shooting in which an individual lost their life. Of course, there's a lot of concern in this incident about how an individual got into a backseat of a police car, and the family of Mr. Garcia are grieving over this incident and the loss of life. And at the same time, I'm extremely grateful that none of our officers were killed or injured as they dealt with this armed individual. And I know that them and their families are also going through a lot of emotions during this time. I think it's important that we recognize that we've been very transparent with every officer involved shooting over the previous several years. We're going to give a briefing exactly what occurred today. Not going to sugarcoat the fact that, yes, we did have an individual somehow get into the back of a car without being properly patted down, searched, however you want to term that. And we're going to address what we can today, but I also want to remind everybody that we have two active investigations occurring at this time. We have both the criminal investigation for the legalities behind the shooting, and we have an administrative investigation to show what could have gone wrong, what policies may have been violated, and how we're going to correct this. I think it's important to distinguish a few things because I have heard questions that came up within the community. Number one, I know there's been chatter on social media. Chief was out of town, didn't fly out and fly back. Let's get that straight right away. I came back from out of town in order to address some of the misinformation that was occurring. There were a lot of misinformation, facts about this case that went out. I think it's important that we get the accurate information out, and we got some more information out directly that Sunday after this incident. I think it's important that we recognize what is a trend, and sometimes we go through peaks and valleys. And the best way I can explain that is we had the best July in almost a decade for homicides. We had two. And August was the worst month we could have had in the last 10 years or possibly the history of the department. So there are peaks and valleys when sometimes things occur at an abnormal pace. I know that it's important that we recognize there's been almost 20,000 custodial arrests by the Albuquerque Police Department in the last 2 years. And of those, there are only 7 incidents where an officer is investigated or held accountable for not doing a proper search. So I want to make sure we address and we really recognize what are trends and times that mistakes are going to be made by officers. And I've said it from the very beginning, this administration has done a good job under this settlement agreement to recognize mistakes from misconduct, and we will let this investigation complete its course, and we'll come back with findings that make recommendations, whether it's for training, like our 6-month reviews we do for shootings. We will have recommendations that come out of this, and we will continue to work on those recommendations and making sure that they impact the entirety of the department if they have to. But I will tell you, one thing we are not going to do as a police department is have a knee-jerk reaction like I've seen for my past 30 years. For 30 years, the department has been plagued at times by knee-jerk reactions, creation of policy and training because of an incident that is an incident and not a trend. So we will let both the administrative and criminal investigation finish, and then we will make a very purposeful plan forward to make sure that we do everything we can, that we have to as a department, to ensure we lessen the likelihood of these incidents occurring in the future. So I want to thank everybody. We will take questions after this, and I'm going to turn it over to Kyle at this time.
Thanks, Chief. My name is Commander Kyle Hartsock of the Criminal Investigation Division, which oversees the multi-agency task force, which investigates all of our officer-involved shootings. Again, we're here to talk about an October 18th, 2024 incident in the 5700 block of Central Northeast. It was our department's 11th officer-involved shooting of 2024. This critical incident community briefing will provide information about a male who pointed a handgun at officers while handcuffed, which resulted in an officer-involved shooting. And there's a setting wrong on the laptop. Give me 1 second to fix it. just have to restart this. Sorry guys, 1 second. Why this got all messed up. Here we go. There we go. You're about to see relevant video footage and photos and learn about other evidence and police procedures related to the case so you can have a better understanding of what occurred based on what we know right now. The police department conducts very thorough criminal and use of force investigations, which typically require investigators to interview multiple witnesses, review hours of video footage, and analyze a significant amount of forensic evidence. We're still at the early stages of this investigation, which can often take several months to complete. Our understanding of the incident may change as additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed. We also do not draw any conclusions about whether the officers acted consistent with our policies and the law until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete. A word of caution, the images and video may be disturbing. When police officers use force to arrest a subject or defend against an attack, it can be graphic and difficult to watch. In addition, there may be strong language by those shown in the videos. The two officers that fired their weapons that day was Officers Precious Cadena and Officer Zachary Earls. Officer Cadena has been with the department since 2021. She was currently assigned to the Southeast Area Command. She has no prior officer-involved shootings, and she has not yet returned to full duty. Officer Earls has also been with the department since 2021, also assigned to the Southeast Area Command. He does have one prior officer-involved shooting, and he has not yet returned to full duty. The involved subject that was shot in this incident was 39-year-old Matthew Garcia of Albuquerque. At the time of the shooting, Matthew was prohibited from possessing a firearm by law due to convictions for armed robbery, auto theft, aggravated assault, and concealing identity. This incident took place in the Southeast Area Command. Prior to the day of the shooting, Albuquerque code enforcement officers, who sometimes work alongside our police officers, spoke with the owner of the Tiwa Lodge about ensuring their building and rooms were safe to occupy and in code compliance. Officers did not have prior knowledge of who was staying in each room. They were knocking on every door with code enforcement, explaining that the room was going to be checked by code enforcement to ensure it was safe to occupy. During initial contact with the room that Matthew Garcia was in, Matthew was hesitant to unlock the door initially, but moments later did come outside. Officers noted Matthew had a necklace with a green metal container that they believed could have narcotics inside based on prior experiences with such containers. When Matthew was asked for his name, he gave a name they believed to be false, as it did not return as being in any of our normal law enforcement databases that help us verify someone's identity. He was then detained in handcuffs as officers wanted to further investigate the drug container and find out his true identity. Here is a video of part of that initial encounter with Mr. Garcia.
I thought you guys were here for code inspection.
So now, with you, because you're concealing our identity, now we're here for something else. Since that female gave her information, complying with us, you're bullshitting us, and I know it. It's very simple to just give us your information. If you're afraid of a warrant or something, just fucking let us know, dude. If it's a misdemeanor or something, I'm not fucking worried about that.
Yeah, but you gotta get a check either way, right?
Yeah, we have to check either way.
Yeah, right.
Huh? Okay, so you're kind of making me
I'm
nervous?
giving you my...
Right, hold on. So all you were doing is putting your custody
Okay.
down? Right.
John, give me my name.
Okay.
Give me my name.
Okay, just face away from us, okay? Face away from us. You're making me really nervous right now, dude, okay? So we're just gonna put you in cuffs for now.
Man, the fuck you guys do? We're fucking do nothing, eh? This is violating my rights, yo. Yeah, but you guys are sitting here fucking arresting me, aren't you?
No, it's not under arrest.
It's obviously you don't want to arrest me.
No, it's
I
not.
don't have the right to even touch me. I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't do nothing wrong. You guys don't have the right to even touch me. I want a lawyer.
What's your name?
I want a lawyer.
You get a lawyer in court. This isn't court. You don't get a lawyer out here.
I
What's
want
your
a lawyer
name?
because you guys touched me.
What's your name?
You guys shouldn't even put hands on me. I didn't do anything wrong. You guys ain't here because I violated any rights or anything wrong.
Now he is.
No, you know what? I didn't do nothing. What the fuck?
One thing you'll notice is we added a box up there just as the videos play on, showing you how many minutes since he's detained have elapsed in each video. As officers were going to do a pat down for weapons, Garcia started to hit his head on the patrol unit. Officers helped stop him from hitting his head on the patrol unit, and at that point just placed him into the back seat of the patrol car. We'll play you part of this video now.
I didn't fucking do this thing, right?
So, continue. Hey, dude, tonight, you're being placed under arrest right now for concealing your identity, okay?
For fucking I'm gonna go.
You just didn't tell me your information. You didn't give me your information. You said it was so sad, and it's not.
You guys are here to arrest people or you guys are violating rights, eh?
You're violating rights, dude. So you're making it. Hey, listen to me.
I'm not fucking
Hold
going
on.
anywhere, eh? What you guys say?
Hold on, dude. Stop. Calm down. Yo. Stop, dude. What's wrong with you? Stop it.
I'm fucking mental.
Stop it, dude. I'm locking his head.
You guys are fucking doing this to me. Fuck this!
Stop it, dude. You're making things worse. Stop kicking.
Stop acting like a child, dude.
What's going on with you? Come here. Come have a seat.
No!
Come have a seat. It's gonna be okay. Just have a seat. Come on, sit down. You're not getting charged with anything extra. Just work with us, dude.
I ain't having nothing going on, eh?
Okay, then just have a seat then.
Why are you so upset?
Cause I'm getting arrested for something I didn't do.
What'd you do?
You guys ain't here for fucking me. And you guys want to run my fucking name? It's Jose Garcia. How am I lying about that?
You told me that you were gonna give me your real name, and then you stopped and started freaking out. Remember? So I know that's not your information.
It's Jose Joseph Garcia.
Okay, then have a seat for me. Just sit up. Okay? We can work with you, whatever warrant you have. We'll try to work with you, okay? I just need you to do me a favor and sit up for me, okay? Right now you're freaking out about I don't know what you have to hide. Sit up for me, Jose.
I'll watch my guys run them.
I couldn't find him. That's the thing. That's not his name. I just looked.
This is a video from an on-scene sergeant on the other side of the car who advised Matthew he's not getting out of the situation. Matthew makes a statement that he wants to kill himself. We'll play part of that video for you now.
So listen, I'm afraid that you don't understand that there's no way you're going to get out of this unless you talk to us and be nice to us, right? That's the only possible way. Right? So you don't want to hurt yourself or stack any additional charges. That's what we're trying to tell you. So I'm glad you're breathing now and you're slowing things down, but you got to talk to us and give us your name. Yeah?
I'm gonna kill myself here.
Okay, just not do that. And you can't kill yourself right now because we're not going to let you happen.
This is a continuation of OBRD from Officer Cadena. She explains to Matthew why he's in handcuffs and how his actions are making her nervous. Again, this is about 12 minutes after he's placed in the handcuffs.
You said, I'll give you my real name. And then I put you in handcuffs, so you were like freaking me out a little bit. That's all.
Who likes to be in handcuffs?
No one, of course not, right? But you gotta understand from my point of view as well. Reaching around, looking around, it makes us nervous too. So that's the reason that we put you in handcuffs, okay? That's what's going on right now. All you have to do is just give us your information. We'll cut you a citation for concealing your identity. It'll be simple. It's a misdemeanor, and we'll cut you loose. Okay?
This is more video from Officer Cadena. It's about 17 minutes after he was placed in handcuffs. She gets a cigarette and allows Matthew to smoke while he's in the back seat, which is a common tactic that officers sometimes use to help a person relax. Soon after this encounter with the cigarette, another witness on scene gave a nickname to Officer Cadena for Garcia, which helped her finally fully identify him as Matthew Garcia and discovered that he had approximately 3 felony warrants for his arrest. We'll play you part of this video.
Tell him he can kick his feet out. Here. Watch out, I'll burn your fucking. Got it? Give me a second. No.
This is approximately 34 minutes after he was initially handcuffed. One thing we'll note, or I want you to know, there's officers by the door the entire time. He was under constant surveillance by the officers throughout this entire detention. In this one, Officer Cadena removes the necklace, and you might have noticed it right now. It has like a green kind of bottle on the end of it. They're going to remove that necklace from him. Well, we'll show you this video.
Yes.
Nothing, step out. Step out.
You can keep it here. I haven't confirmed it. NCIS is taking forever. I'm taking this off you for now, okay?
That's my mom's ashes, right?
No, it's not. It's fentanyl pills, dude. I can hear him. Somebody's obnoxious.
So if you fight or flee right now, force is going to be used against you. You understand that?
Hold on, because I don't want to cut you. Chill out. Chill. Stop it. Stop. Move your head to the side, please.
In this video from Officer Cadena, as they're confirming the warrants, they're still discussing the need that he needs to be searched. We'll play you part of this video now.
Hey, can you just keep eyes on him, please?
Yep.
He's moving a lot and I haven't searched him yet.
Roll down the window.
Yeah, just...
This video is about 43 minutes after detention. Officers are discussing their plan to still remove Garcia and complete a pat-down search of him.
And I'm like, no, dude. I'd rather die than go back to jail. Like all kinds of crazy shit. Like last thing I need is from the fucking mission. Like, yeah, jail.
So, hide it down.
Nothing.
It's got a lot of bulges, so that's why it's like
There's
definitely.
something in there. That's why I asked you to just watch it now. It's about to freak me out.
We're now going to show you video from Officer Perry. Officer Perry does not fire his gun. This is about 45 minutes after the initial detention. In his interview, he stated, quote, "I was in fear that if he had a gun, he's starting to turn in there like something's going to get shot. So I reach in and I pull Officer Cadena out of the car. I decided to go hands-on with Matthew. If I apply pressure on top of him, it's going to stop him from being able to manipulate the gun. Prior to all this happening, I already saw his hands to the right of him. He's turning to the right. I see the barrel of the gun starting to come toward the direction of Officer Cadena. All I can think of is he's either going to shoot me or Officer Cadena. I grab the gun and I immediately started, in a way, pushing away. As I'm doing that, I hear a gunshot." We'll play this video for you now.
Stop, dude! Dude! Stop! Stop!
Gun!
Go!
Gun! Fuck!
Shots fired, jump through there.
Don't fucking move! Don't fucking move!
It's good.
Don't fucking move! Yes, he's got it!
No, I got the gun.
You got it?
I got the gun.
In this video from Officer Cadena, which also is going to cover the shooting, in her statement she said, "I attempted to pull the firearm away from Matthew, but I was unable to. We were in such close proximity to the firearm, anywhere he would have pointed the firearm could have struck myself or other officers. I fired multiple rounds at Matthew to prevent myself or anyone else from being shot." Here's her video.
Confirmed 3 felony warrants. Okay, so that's what's going on. Her lawful objective to begin with was the fact that he had the pill necklace on. That's what I detained him for. It is. I'm just letting you know, and I'm saying it out loud for everybody.
I trusted you from the beginning.
Hey.
Never doubted you.
You're all. What is she fucking doing? Yeah, we'll hold on. I'm ready.
I'm out. Let's go. Step out. Step out, bro.
You guys really don't want to do this, huh?
What do you mean by? I don't know what that means, but you need to step out right now. Come on.
Why?
What do you have in your hand, B?
I'm going.
Yo, dude, put your shit, bro. Stop.
I'm gonna fucking die.
Stop, dude. Dude, stop. Stop.
Gun!
Harry, move. Harry. Move, Harry. Don't fucking reach for it. Don't fucking move. Don't fucking move.
He's got a gun. Stay on the side. Stay on the side.
Don't fucking move, dude. Don't fucking move.
Have it?
Yes, he still has it. He still has it.
I got the gun. I got the gun.
You got it?
I got the gun out.
Hey, take a breath. Take a breath.
Cassie, back up.
This is OBRD from Officer Earls, who does fire his gun. He stated in his METF interview, quote, "I reached underneath him and just followed his arm up to his hand, and then I felt a trigger guard just past his knuckle and felt his finger bent into what was clearly the trigger guard of a pistol. I felt the slide along my thumb and the slide serrations scraped my palm. I tried grabbing it, but all of his weight was on top of my hand and I couldn't grab it. I watched the barrel make its way up towards Officer Perry's face. He was maybe a foot away, if that, from the muzzle of the gun. And that's when I started shooting." We'll play his video for you now.
Step up. Come on. I don't know what that means. Step out right now. Come on. Why?
What do you have in your hand?
Right.
Stop, dude! Dude! Stop! Stop!
Gun!
Harry, move! Harry!
Gun!
Fuck!
Don't fucking race, what?
Shots fired. Shots fired. Jump through the air.
Don't fucking...
In this still shot image from Officer Earl's video, you can see outlined in red Officer Perry fighting for the gun Matthew had in his possession. This still photo is approximately 1 second after the one I just showed you. This shows Officer Perry still on top of Matthew as Officer Earls begins to fire his handgun. This is a still photo from Officer Cadena's OBRD. Officer Perry is on top of Matthew, and this is when her first shots start to fire. This is a still photo from Officer Perry's OBRD. In his hands is the handgun that Matthew had in his possession when this incident started. He's pulling out of the patrol vehicle. Detectives later on after the shooting met with the reported significant other to Matthew who showed up on scene, who expressed statements to detectives that Matthew had talked several times before about not wanting to return to prison and to possibly suicide by cop. We're going to play a portion of that interview for you now.
I say that he's not going back, that he'll go by suicide by cop, and I would tell him all the fucking time, don't fucking say that, Matthew.
A total of 11 casings were found on scene. Early indications indicate that Officer Earl fired 4 rounds and Officer Cadena fired 7 rounds. 5 casings were found inside of the back of the patrol vehicle. This is a view from the driver's side of that back seat. This is a view from the passenger side. The firearm that Officer Perry took from Mr. Garcia was placed in the back of this truck that was already on scene inside that tire where you can see the yellow marker. This is a close-up photo of the firearm as it was laid there right after the shooting took place. At this time, there's no evidence that this gun was able to successfully fire during the shoot. There was a live round in the chamber, and the magazine that was inserted contained 12 additional rounds. This is a photo of the green necklace that was taken off of Mr. Garcia's neck with the blue, what we believe to be fentanyl pills inside. This was the apartment that Mr. Garcia was, or came out of. A search warrant was completed for the contents of the apartment. A pellet gun was found inside the room, an ammunition can that contained approximately 380 rounds of 7.62 ammo. This is the 9mm handgun that Garcia had in his possession during the shooting. The slide was somewhat out of battery. Our early testing shows that might have happened during the struggle for the gun. The original purchaser of this gun is out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We have confirmed they purchased the gun in April of this year in Albuquerque. We have spoken to them, who said the firearm was stolen approximately 2 months prior to the shooting, but was not reported to police. No NIBIN leads have come in for this handgun as of today. Matthew Garcia was pronounced deceased on scene. Over the next several months, the multi-agency task force will continue to investigate and analyze this incident. Detectives will interview any new witnesses that come forward and complete any forensic test. After the investigation is complete, the case will be forwarded to the District Attorney's Office to make any determination of criminal charges. Our Internal Affairs Force Division will also investigate the shooting to determine whether the department's policies were followed. The results of the administrative investigation will be forwarded to the city's Superintendent of Police Reform to make final decisions on discipline. Our Force Review Board, made up of deputy chiefs, will also review the incident to identify trends and potential policy changes that may be needed in response to any shortcomings that are identified.
You know, a couple things that I want to talk about before we go to questions is our code enforcement officers are civilians. We join them on these operations because of the fact that a lot of these areas have criminal activity occurring, and we cannot put our civilian employees who are not capable of defending themselves into situations where they have no protection for the places that they're encountering or the individuals they're encountering. As you could clearly see, there's been a lot of speculation how this occurred, and there is this perception out there, or has been brought up in public, like, oh, these officers didn't conduct a search. I think as you watch the video, you could clearly see that she's putting her gloves on. She knows that a search needs to occur. She's getting ready to search the individual. We've also asked our officers time and time again to de-escalate situations as much as possible. You can see how the individual starts to bang his head on a car, and in an attempt to calm the situation down, they put him in the car. She knows she hasn't searched him. You can hear it. She says, I still need to search them. So this incident happened very fluidly, where this individual ended up in a car in an attempt where officers were trying to do what we've asked them to do for the past 10 years under this settlement agreement, de-escalate situations. We also know that our officers showed a great deal of compassion. You could see how they spoke to this individual compassionately, told him they didn't want him to kill himself, asked him to cooperate with him, were attempting to get him out, instead of the alternative, just grabbing him and ripping him out of the car when he was already in there and they knew they wanted to get him out of the car. I mentioned how she knew they still needed to search the individual because it seems to have gotten lost during the transition where they're trying to de-escalate the situation. We mentioned the criminal activity for in this case because of the fact that we want the public to kind of understand why this individual was concerned about going back to jail. As we all know, we refer all our felon possession cases to the federal government. It's 10 years for every firearm or piece of ammunition. This individual is looking at a lengthy stay, which may kind of help us understand why there was such a fear. But when we talk about true trends and things that are occurring and what we see, this is my big concern is individuals are so fearful. This is not the first case we're seeing. And this is a trend that I haven't seen in 30 years. Anybody who's been here over 20 years can't say they're seeing this trend of instead of going to jail, these individuals would rather lose their life. There is that fear. And I have a concern is like, do these individuals, are they fearful of the withdrawals? Are they fearful of just the lengthy prison stays? I don't know. But I think it's something worth somebody at an educational institute researching and kind of finding out why we're now seeing this current trend of individuals who are so fearful. So I hope that we're able to clarify some of the misinformation. Like I said, from the very beginning, there's been a lot of misinformation. Let's face it, the first day on this case, there was information out there that this individual had been executed on a sidewalk. And I think everybody in this room who's part of the media saw that. And we could clearly see that that's not the case. So I hope this brings sheds a little bit more light on what happened. And I also hope it sheds light of why it's so important for us to be able to gather all the information and put a presentation together. Because the notion that officers are mistrained and just didn't search this individual is completely inaccurate. You can see they knew they had to search him. But the incident escalated. And I think that's why it's so important that our Supreme Court has mentioned that officers are judged on the view of another reasonable officer, not on a citizen, not on the legal expert at your news station, but on actual actions of police officers. And we'll take questions with that. Yes, sir.
Can you, the criminal investigation, is that for the shooting itself, or is it a criminal investigation against the officers that opened fire?
It's kind of both. And it's not just for this incident. I don't want people to feel like, oh my God, they're criminally investigating these officers. Every single officer involved shooting has a criminal investigation to determine whether that shooting was justified or not. And usually about 18 months later, we get a letter from the district attorney's office that they have somebody on contract that says the shooting was justified. So I don't want the perception like, oh my God, this is being done in this case. It's done in every single officer involved shooting. Yes, ma'am.
Has there been any determination on in or out of policy on this one?
No, this case is still obviously going through internal affairs and still being investigated.
Okay, just a follow up. So obviously, intense situation, you know, you've got the one officer on the guy, you've got the others firing almost around his body. I know it's like a Monday morning quarterback. Do you have anything to say about how this played out with two officers clearly shooting within inches of their fellow officer, but obviously you've got this guy with a gun? I mean, is there anything to say about that?
We need the internal affairs and the rest of the investigation to take place, because if the investigation shows that the officers were shooting like at an angle straight down on the individual, then I think that shows that they were very concerned about the direction of the bullets. If the bullets came out the other side of the car, well, then it's something that's going to have to be looked at. But we're going to have to let the investigation be completed to see exactly what occurred there. Yes?
Can you tell us where the weapon was when he was shot?
The weapon was in the... There was a fight over the weapon, it appears, between Mr. Garcia and at least 3 officers at one point. And when he was shot, the best we could tell was it was still in Mr. Garcia's hand, and one officer was trying to take it away from him at that point. Yes.
But just a clarification, the other officer was able to get that handgun away from him before he was?
It appears that they're still investigating this, but as it currently appears, and like I said, this could change in the future, it appears that as the shots were fired, it gave the officer the ability to pull the gun from him as he was probably getting struck.
About how many bullets actually struck Mr. Garcia?
That I don't know. 10. Yes, Nick.
In this situation, what policy would be applied that they would be able to successfully search a suspect that is this very disruptive? And my second question is...
Let's stop for your first question there. You're going to have to clarify that. What policy? I didn't understand that.
So if they're disruptive on the side of the street in handcuffs, what policies and practices would be put in place to make sure a search is fully done?
Did anybody from the command staff understand his question that could answer it? George? Josh? Mike?
Let me rephrase it. When I'm old, and maybe some laws have changed or policies have changed, but in the old days, before you would even handcuff someone, you would search them or pat them down. Why wasn't that done in this case?
That's what the internal investigation is going to tell. And I know through my training years ago is like, I was very adamant if I was able to handcuff somebody before searching them, I would, because it makes it so much easier to search them than to get in a fight with them. And I think that really exemplifies, Mark, how things have changed from when you were an officer, when I was an officer, and where officers are in today's day and time. Because you and I randomly We just searched people and we tagged the tag officer safety. It's part of why the Department of Justice and DOJ is here. In today's day and age, our officers have aspects that they need to contend with that you didn't contend with, I didn't contend with. They have to develop a lawful objective as to why they're going to search somebody, and they have to clearly identify the exact reasons why somebody felt danger from that person in order to conduct a safety pat down. You and I would just say, I didn't feel safe. Nobody questioned that. In today's day and age, which you and I are not a part of as much, they're not questioned that way. They're questioned that way, in a way that we weren't. Any other questions? Yes.
I know you mentioned not making a knee-jerk reaction when it comes to training, but if there is such a concern for suicide by cop, for lack of better words, why is there that not already, something that you guys are like, whether there's an investigation ongoing or so forth, we know that as much de-escalation, as much training in that situation, there can never be, enough considering the concern.
I'm so glad you asked that question. We actually identified this trend last year with not this trend, but we were concerned about this type of situation based off of the shooting outside of Cottonwood Mall last year. And our latest round of training deals with our reality-based training that our officers are going through this year based off of information from the past, actually has a suicidal scenario in it where officers are dealing with an individual who's suicidal that is armed with the gun that we need to de-escalate and talk them into custody. So I think that's a good example of how we've changed things from the past, where you're asking a question and we already had a training that people have already gone through with this that was developed way before this incident. That 6-month shooting review that this administration is doing and we're doing now currently at the police department is imperative for us to find problematic situations or trends and give our officers additional training so that they encounter it in a controlled environment prior to being out in the street.
So it appears from that video that she had an instinct that something was awry, and that's why she cuffed him.
Yes.
So can you explain how that then progressed to the situation? Because obviously you guys have an intuition.
Well, it appears that what I see an officer who knows that she didn't feel safe. She handcuffed him. Also recognizes that didn't get to completely search him the way she intended prior to him being put in the car. And recognizes they need to get this individual out of the car and finish a pat-down search. And unfortunately, it evolved, and we still have a lot of questions during the administrative and criminal investigation to get to. And one of the things that we're dealing with right now as an administration is when officers write a police report, they justify in the report criminally what they did when they used force. I used force for this and this reasons. That's the interview that was conducted by MATF for the criminal investigation. But generally in a use of force situation, officers have really written down and documented why they used force. In these incidents, officers don't write a report. That information that generally we could read and get a better understanding of what occurred is given in the form of a statement to Internal Affairs and is part of the Internal Affairs case. So that's why it's imperative that we have to let the administrative investigation conclude in order for us to have all the details as to why they occurred, and then they can make decisions based off of everything that they have after that interview, whether policies were followed or not, or how this could have been avoided. Does that answer your question?
I guess I said it wrong. It was more like, do you think that she had an intuition? Because obviously she said she felt uncomfortable and then cuffed him and then it appeared.
I without a doubt sensed that she didn't feel comfortable and felt that there was danger.
Chief?
Yes. Go ahead, no.
Okay. When this story came out back in mid-October, and I remember I was out there at the Tewa Lodge, I spoke to some people that knew Matthew. They referred to him as someone who distributes. So I have 2 questions regarding that. You mentioned he had felony warrants. Can you talk about the felony warrants? And then my second question is regarding the 7.28 ammo. Was that stolen? Do you guys have any idea, or was he distributing that ammo?
Go ahead. We'll let Kyle take that. He may have more details.
So his warrants were due from a conviction and plea deal he took a couple of years ago for armed robbery, ag assault, concealing AD, and auto theft. So those were the convictions he had. It's hard to trace if ammo is stolen. I mean, if it's close to the time of a burglary or something like that, we maybe can, but it's not actually traceable the same way a gun might be. So we're unsure of that.
Okay, it's a substantial amount of ammo we have on that box. The ammo or the pills that he had on him, is there any reason to believe that it was for personal use?
We found approximately 4 pills on him. Traditionally, that's more aligned with personal use, but once the shooting happened, our investigation didn't continue into drug distribution necessarily. It was more about this incident right here.
Yeah.
And, Chief, you had mentioned that there is that trend of these individuals wanting suicide by cop for that term. How often do your officers come across that outside of just an OIS, but just in general? How often are your officers interacting with folks that they may be taking in that they're just really distraught, really upset, and are saying these statements?
You know, that's a great question, and I'm glad you brought that up, because on a daily basis, our officers encounter individuals that are in a mental health crisis of some sort. And 99.999% of the time, they're able to de-escalate these individuals. They're able to take them safely into custody. And we get a positive outcome from those incidents. It's unfortunate that too many times that the entirety of our department, its leadership and everybody, will be judged on the one incident out of 1,000. But that's the reality of it, and I understand that. But I just want the citizens of Albuquerque to understand and look at this video and recognize a few key things. 20 years ago, and I'll put our reporter back there, Mark, on the spot with me. Mark, I don't think we were trained this well to speak and communicate and show compassion towards individuals as these officers today.
That's true, sir.
It just, we weren't. These officers in today's day and age are so much more advanced and better at treating people with dignity, with respect, and trying to get a positive outcome than at any other time in the history of this department. And I'm extremely proud of the efforts they put to de-escalate this situation, to try to calm this individual down, and unfortunately, it didn't end in the best of ways, and I recognize that.
Do you think that Mr. Garcia was having a mental health crisis at that time?
I think he was having a crisis in which is hard to understand, but he definitely did not want to go back to jail. Yes, Matt.
Do you think that the training you're speaking of kind of doomed them in this situation with not patting him down because they were trying to de-escalate, because they were being compassionate? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think the internal affairs case is going to give us greater insight as to what the officers were feeling and how they were processing what had occurred, and it may give us a bigger insight. But without a doubt, I think every officer in this department tells you that they're very concerned about using force. They're very concerned about the investigations, and they're very concerned that they're going to be held accountable. And they do their very best, which we've asked, and which I think is now the expectation from the community. Do the best you can to avoid force. And unfortunately, this didn't work out the way that they had hoped.
I had a follow-up. So about a year ago, June 2023, something like that, an officer saw Garcia smoking fentanyl on the side of Central, went to arrest him. Garcia pulled out a knife. I think he said, "I'll kill you," something like that. Had to pull in someone else, de-escalate. They used a 40. They arrested him. When they identified him as being this person, did they have that information? Was that, do you know if like they were, when they looked up his record and they found out who he was, did they have this like, oh, a year ago, you know, he threatened to kill a cop in this kind of situation?
I don't think they had that information, but I thank you for bringing that information. I'm going to look over at my investigators, and they're going to be answering to me later why I didn't have that information before Matt Risen from the Journal asked me that, Kyle George. But I think it sheds light on the fact that, you know, we have individuals out in the community that, I mean, if this individual was threatening officers a year earlier with a knife and we were able to de-escalate it and safely take this person into custody, it just emphasizes how many times we are successful in getting somebody into custody without getting involved in a shooting, an armed individual. So it's unfortunate, this incident. And like I said, I sympathize with the family. They lost a son. I briefly met them at City Council, and I feel bad that this happened to their son. But at the same time, I'm grateful that I have 3 officers that went home that night.
Just one follow-up on that, Matt. Remember, they didn't have his identity for most of this incident. So they wouldn't have known about that previous.
Well, at the end, they identified him.
Yeah, I don't think they'd have had time to do a background. Yeah. I don't think they had enough time to pull reports and look at them.
Have the officers involved in this, have they expressed interest in going back to field work? I know Officer Cadena was very upset following that shooting based on that video that you showed. Have they shown that they want to return back to field duty?
You know, I haven't had that personal conversation with them. I don't think their deputy chief is here, but we do monitor our individuals. And I could tell you from personal experience, when I was involved in my shooting in whenever it was, the early 2000s, I was given the option, and many times we give the option for people to go to a specialized unit to kind of get that sense of confidence and to kind of be okay to go back to work. But there are some officers, I was one of those, that I wanted to be with my squad and I wanted to go back to work.
What was the circumstances of the gun being stolen? Do we know any more about how the gun got stolen?
We don't know how the gun got stolen, or Kyle probably knows how the gun got stolen.
It's under investigation. I'm so sorry.
And then one other thing. So this says 2 prior OIS for Earls. The PowerPoint said 1. Do you know if it's 1 or 2?
I'll double check that after. It might be this might be the second OIS.
This might be one prior, this second one will be a current. I think that he may have been one of the ones involved in when our officer got shot, January 31st? No, Mike's telling me no. January 1st?
Just one.
Just one? Okay, we'll listen to Mike.
And also, you said apartment when you were chatting, a hotel room? Is it a apartment or hotel room, hotel used as an apartment?
My understanding is the landlord was allowing some people to have more extended stays that more replicates an apartment situation.
Okay. Long-term living situation.
I think it might have varied by tenant and room.
Got it.
I have one last follow-up to Matt's question about the gun being stolen. Is there any consequences, for residents who don't report the gun stolen? You mentioned the person never reported it stolen.
There is currently no legislation in which we can enforce that you must mandatorily report your firearm. There are circumstances where we could hold an individual custody. Benny's Law is one of those examples. But, this is just a reminder to all the citizens of Albuquerque that I'm an avid hunter, grew up in Taos. I've fished my whole life. I've had firearms my whole life. And all of us need to be responsible gun owners and ensure that we secure our firearms. We have way too many guns that are used to harm and injure citizens in Albuquerque that are stolen during the commission of a simple burglary. Locking your gun in your center console is not securing your firearm. Hiding it under the seat or between the seat is not securing your firearm. Please remember that your carelessness can lead to somebody losing their life.
Note the serial number too. It's hard to report it stolen.
Yeah.
Oh, there was no serial number on that?
No, I mean that a lot of times people don't report it stolen because they don't know.
They don't know the serial number. Mark,
Chief.
last one.
Yeah, I want to circle back to the misinformation, because it works both ways. This particular case, a release was put out that he was transported to the hospital when in fact he was dead on the sidewalk. And it caused some issues with people going down to the hospital and then coming back to the scene, and a lot of people started showing up. It caused some pandemonium. So misinformation works both ways.
You know what? And I'm glad you brought that up. Early in my time as a deputy chief, and I still remember it was the first officer-involved shooting that we publicly said officer-involved shooting in such a timely manner. And it was the shooting at, in front of Walmart on Eubank. And Gilbert was actually in the car with me, and I said, bro, go ahead and tweet out that we had an officer-involved shooting. And investigators about lost their mind. And at that point in time, I reminded the media, and I'll continue to remind everybody, is we're extremely fast with the information that we have, and I will apologize I will stand here and apologize if sometimes that early misinformation we put out is inaccurate and we have to correct that information later or was inaccurate. We don't always have the most accurate information, but we are attempting to be as transparent and honest with the community. And sometimes the information we get to ourselves is inaccurate, and we will do our very best to correct it as quickly as possible. Any other questions? Anything else? I said that was the last one. We're good. All right, thanks. You guys have a good day.